Thank you for letting me know I'm muted. I'm not sure why I keep having that problem. All right. Welcome, everyone, to Creator Weekly Live for the week ending September 24th, 2023. I'm Peggy Kay, coming from the Bay Area. And first, I wanted to start with a bit of a celebration. My blog, peggyktc.com, is now 10 years old. I can't even believe it. I started out just a moment. If you're in the live chat, can you hear me talking? It is showing me as, all right, you hear me loud and clear. Thank you, Craig. All right, so I want to start out by saying this is the 10-year anniversary of my blog at peggyktc.com. I started it 10 years ago as a place to write out tutorials related to the integration of Google Plus and YouTube. And yes, if you're listening, that was a big deal 10 years ago. Obviously now Google Plus is long gone, YouTube's gone its own way. So from there, I branched out to sharing more things, more tutorials, more news. So thank you so much for your support over the past 10 years. And it'll be interesting to see what the next 10 years brings. I also wanted to mention that, as usual, you can get all this week's links and tips in my weekly newsletter. You can either go to my blog, there's a link in the description, or you should sign up to get the weekly news by email. That's at newsletter.peggyktc.com. So thank you for subscribing if you already subscribe. If not, you should check it out. All right, so the first thing I wanted to mention, Andrew in the comments says, I did my first live stream on September 26, 2013. Happy decade anniversary, Andrew. That's a long time to be live streaming. And I'm going to guess, was that with the Hangouts on Air? That was one of the big features that Google Plus had, made live streaming accessible to a lot more people, because 10 years ago, there weren't nearly as many options as there are today. So the first thing I wanted to talk about today is a new update for YouTube. And this is really actually a pretty cool update. I have a tutorial on my channel if you want to take a look. This is a new video editing app. It's for Android. It works on phones, tablets, and I got it to work on my Chromebook without any problem, noting that I do have a touch screen on my Chromebook. So if you have an Android device, definitely check out the new YouTube Create app. It's in beta. It's not available everywhere yet, but it is available in the US and UK and India, Singapore, France, Germany, a couple other places as well. I think it's pretty slick. It's got lots of editing tools, all the things you need. The video I made on my channel, giving a first look at the app, I created in the app. So you can see the kind of things you can do, layers, audio, add music, stickers, all kinds of things. So definitely check out the new YouTube Create app if you have an Android device. I want to welcome everyone to the live chat. I started out on a bad foot this morning without audio, but it's all working now. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. It's great to see folks in the live chat. You guys are an interesting bunch, and you always have interesting discussion about the various updates. And I want to also say it's finally fall here in the Bay Area. We're getting cooler weather. I hope you're having nice weather where you are. Diego mentions, I wish they had an iOS app. They said that the iOS app for YouTube Create should be available next year. So take a look at it, and you can anticipate there being more countries available, updated features in the iOS app within the next year. I mean, next year is just a few months from now. So the other thing that YouTube announced is what they're calling a whole suite of tools called Made on YouTube. These are mostly AI-based tools. So the first thing they talk about is something called Dream Screen. This is a way to automatically generate video or image backgrounds for your shorts. These will be AI generated, so the idea is that you give a text prompt and it will create a background for you. And there's a little tease here. It says, in the future, we'll expand to features that will allow anyone to instantly reimagine their videos by simply typing in an idea to edit their content or remix existing YouTube videos and turn them into something entirely new. This sounds like a huge update where, you might be able to type in something like, combine these clips or something like that. It's pretty vague. That means it's probably pretty far in the future, so don't expect to see that anytime soon, but it will be something that's pretty cool when it comes. In addition to the backgrounds on shorts, they are going to start offering what they call AI-powered insights. That will be on the research tab in YouTube Studio. And the idea is that it will give you suggestions for an outline of a video based on a prompt. It will be customized for your channel. It will also be based on what's popular on YouTube. So it kind of gives you suggestions based on what other people are watching, but also relevant to your channel. That sounds like an interesting tool for inspiration and suggestions. They are going to launch assistive search in Creator Music. That's going to make it easier to find soundtracks for your video. The idea is you describe your content and the AI will suggest the right music at the right price. Creator Music, where you can license commercial music for your videos, currently is only available in the US. I don't know how long it may take to be available in other countries. And then finally, there's automatic dubbing with Aloud. This is something YouTube has been talking about for a while. It started with a project in Google's Area 120, which is their sort of startup incubator-y section where people could try different features. And then if they turned out to be working pretty well, they might be integrated back into regular Google products. Aloud allows automated dubbing, and you can learn a bit more on the announcement in the YouTube help community. I'll note there that it says Aloud currently supports dubbing from English into Portuguese and Spanish, but they are also working on other European languages, Hindi, Bahasa Indonesia, and Japanese. It sounds like a pretty cool tool once it launches. So those are the big updates from YouTube this week. And you can see there's sort of a theme, AI. And that was the big theme this week. Google's Bard, it's bard.google.com, had a big update this week. And it allows you to link to apps where you can link your Gmail, Google Docs and Google Drive, your Google Workspace products, and then Bard will help create responses to your questions based on the content of your account. So I just wanted to mention that Bard has said that if you use it, you will not get your content used by Google for anything other than Bard. So it says, what happens with my data when I use Bard extensions? Extensions are available in English. It says, when you use the Google Workspace extension, that gives Bard access to your email, Docs, and Drive. It says that Bard processes your personal data that it gets from Google Workspace. But importantly, the personal content that Bard gets from Google Workspace is not allowed to be accessed or reviewed by human reviewers. It is not used to improve generative machine learning technologies that power Bard. It is not used to show you ads and not stored past the time period needed to provide and maintain Bard services. So if you set up the extensions in Bard, you can be assured that your data is not being used by the AI. Other than to give you an answer, this is what it looks like if you go to bard.google.com/extensions. You can see the extensions you have enabled. There's also extensions for Google Flights, Google Hotels, Google Maps. The idea being it can answer travel questions. There is a YouTube extension that lets Bard access YouTube to give you suggestions for videos that are responsive to whatever question you ask. And then there's the Google Workspace extensions. Diego notes that your Bard history must be on to turn on the Bard extensions. That's a good point. So if you're erasing your Bard history, that may not work for you. Again, it's really clear that all the big companies have decided generative AI is part of the future. And so it's not just Google doing this. Microsoft had a big event this past week where they announced their AI tools expansion. And they have had Bing Chat for a while. But what they talked about in their announcement is something that they're calling Microsoft Copilot. Microsoft Copilot is your everyday AI companion, which sounds friendly. This is going to be built in to Windows 11, and it will be built in to Microsoft Office and the other Microsoft apps. I believe it's coming to business accounts first. That should be available in November. To personal accounts, only some of the features will be available early. So just to mention Copilot in Windows is in preview, and they say it empowers you to create faster, complete text with ease. It empowers you to create faster, complete tasks with ease and lessens your cognitive load. This is Google's talking about Duet. The idea is that you're working together with the generative AI. It's not replacing you, it's your pal that you work together with. So they've also enhanced Paint with AI for drawing and digital creation, background removal, and so forth. Windows Photos has new AI features for editing. There are Clipchamp, which I guess is a video editing tool, helps you with scenes, suggestions, edits, and narratives based on your images and footage automatically. There's the new Outlook for Windows. And all of these things are getting AI integrations. If you have a business account, you will see Microsoft 365 Copilot and Microsoft 365 Chat. Microsoft has a big announcement about what all the features are and how you can access them. And the idea is this is your AI assistant at work. So AI is the future. One thing that's really interesting, I think, is that Apple has not jumped on this bandwagon. And I think that's the missing piece. Obviously, Microsoft dominates in the business world. Microsoft Office. Google has the online cloud, Google Docs. But then there are the Apple tools as well. And it's hard to imagine Apple not eventually jumping on this bandwagon. Andrew says, AI will make the tech scene in Star Wars and so forth become a reality eventually. Yeah, it's definitely not at that point yet. I would certainly love a real assistant, but the large language models that Microsoft and Google are using aren't quite at that level yet. So all of these things are experimental. They all want feedback. Give them a try, see if they help. I do find in Google Docs, for example, I give a suggestion and it gives me, an outline that I can use. I almost never actually use that outline, but usually there's a few little bits in there that are useful. So I'm playing with it because this is the way things are going. And along those lines, if you have your own website, you have to decide, do you want the content of your website used to train future AI? So along those lines, Microsoft also announced that if you don't want your content to be in Bing Chat, that's their AI chatbot in search, you have to put on no cache tag, no archive tag. The downside of doing that is that your content is then not cached or archived in the Bing search results or the Google search results. So you've probably gone in Google search. There's a website, maybe it's been taken down, but Google still has a cached version. You can look at that version, which is basically a snapshot of what the website looked like when it was indexed. If you have to turn that off to make sure that the chatbot spidering tools, I'm not sure what to call it exactly, will vacuum up your information to train their AI bots, that seems like kind of a loss. So that's something that webmasters are going to have to start thinking about. What do you allow? And what are the trade-offs for that? All right. So a few other small updates this week. I want to mention that if you use Canva, now Canva is image editing, video editing, graphic design. They are changing their plans, the way teams work. Currently, if you have a free account, you can set up a team with other people, and that makes it easier to collaborate. They're basically taking teams away from free accounts. You can keep the teams that you have until the deadline, which is October 31st, but you can't make any changes. So you can't create a new team. You can't add people to the teams that you have. If you want to do that, you have to subscribe to Canva Teams, which is like $300 a year, which is obviously significantly more than free. So that's something to be aware of if you use Canva with Teams. And it is important to me. I actually do have a couple of teams that I'm on, and we're going to have to evaluate how we're going to use that going forward. On the social media front, X, formerly Twitter, is deprecating circles as of October 31st. This probably isn't a huge surprise because the way it was set up is that you could only create one circle. Basically, you could share privately just to people in your circle, but back in March or April, they had some technical issues where your supposedly privately shared posts were showing up to people who followed you in their For You feed rather than just to people who are in the circle. So there's probably some complications about keeping things private. It's not clear how many people actually use this feature. So they're saying, well, if you want private messaging, use the DMs instead. If you use circles, you have until October 31st to manage them. For reasons I don't understand, is the only way you can remove someone from a circle is by unfollowing them. That removes them from the circle automatically, and then following them again, which seems like not a great way to do it, but who am I to say? Dave says, I never even used circles. I didn't think anyone did. That's why it's going away. Yeah, that is probably true. It probably doesn't have a lot of usage. And of course, it's one of those things where do people even know about it? It's hard for people to use things that they're not even aware exists. And Jolyn says, Musk has destroyed Twitter. Yeah, it's not the same Twitter it was. I guess that was his goal all along. The other social media update I wanted to mention is that you can now have multiple personal profiles on Facebook. This is a big change. Previously, they were like, no, you can only have one profile, even though clearly there are a lot of people out there that had multiple profiles. There's a catch, though. The catch is that all your profiles have to be linked. Your main profile is still expected to have your real name, the name you actually use. You can then create up to 4 additional profiles linked to that main profile. Those additional profiles can have any name as long as they don't violate the Facebook policy and they don't impersonate anyone. So I think that's an interesting twist for Facebook. And I think it's a bit of an acknowledgement that people are going to create multiple profiles no matter what they do. This gives an official way for people to do that. Yeah. when Musk goes to subscription only for Twitter, X, he'll lose many users. I agree. I'm not going to pay to post there. It's really not clear if he seriously meant that. I think Musk tosses out a lot of suggestions. He doesn't really think about them or ask anyone with expertise. And whether he's serious about that, it's hard to know. I think one of the biggest problems, though, is that the vast majority of people who have Twitter accounts, X accounts, don't post anything. They just consume and view the content. If you put everything behind a paywall, those people probably are definitely not going to pay. Then you end up with a much smaller user base of people talking to each other. It seems unlikely to me he would want to do that, but who knows? And then just to finish things up, I wanted to mention a couple updates for Google Meet that I think are pretty cool. If you use Google Meet for meetings, you can now add add-ons directly. The idea is that you can do collaborative things from inside the meeting itself rather than having to have a whole separate window. Currently, they have options for add-ons from Confluence, Figma, LucidSpark, Miro, Poly, and Read AI. So you can install those. This is available to both Google Workspace and personal accounts. The other update I wanted to mention very briefly is that you can pair your video tile. The idea is that if you have a sign language interpreter, for example, you can say, I want to pair my video with this other person's video, so they'll always show to people together. Unfortunately, if you're making a recording or presumably a live stream from Google Meet, these will not work. So this is only inside the meeting that you see people paired. If you do a recording, it's still going to just be whoever's talking in any presentation. So those are the updates for this week. I hope you found them interesting. Lots of AI. We'll see what next week brings. I hope you join me then. Thank you so much for joining me live, and I will see